Horror films like It thrived on making fun, harmless objects like this red balloon really creepy. It was 50 years ago that Virginia Cruz stood alongside this reflecting pool with hundreds of thousands of other marchers. The students of Brooklyn Transition Center got to learn about aquaponics today through taste, touch, and smell. But why don't other Buddhist masters do more to push back against this hateful rhetoric and stand up for Rohingya Muslims? Festivities will last throughout the weekend and will end in a huge carnival along Eastern Parkway on Labor Day. In 2017, audiences got spooked by evil clowns, possessed dolls, and realized horror also lurked in the everyday. In fact, moviegoers flocked to so many horror films, they propelled the genre to its highest grossing year in history. And the movie It beat out The Exorcist to become the highest grossing horror film ever, with a massive $700 million haul. But it wasn't just a year for big horror films. There were some notable smaller films too.
Smaller horror movies were really interesting. There's a wide array, diversity of stories and of talent on screen. There was a French movie called Raw that came out in the spring, directed by a French woman, and it is a shocking, provocative, fascinating, interesting character study done in the traditional kind of horror movie paradigm. There was another one that came out, a British film called The Girl with All the Gifts, about a young girl who is a second generation after a zombie apocalypse has happened. And it's a great movie. It just unfortunately didn't quite make as much of a splash. It was a bit of a small splash it made.
Horror films like It thrived on making fun, harmless objects like this red balloon really creepy. But outside of the gimmicks, there were plenty of films in 2017 that preyed on people's real fears. America's racial anxieties came to a head in the horror thriller Get Out. And judging from the box office, audiences loved it. It made more than $250 million worldwide.
Mom and Dad, my black boyfriend will be coming up this weekend. I just don't want you to be shocked that he's a black man.
Get Out tells the story of a black man dating a white woman who's visiting her parents for the first time. While the parents seem progressive at first, he soon realizes something is terribly wrong.
We hired Georgina and Walter to help care for my parents. When they died, I couldn't bear to let them go.
I think we all feel very punch drunk right now, especially in America, with our political leadership. We're not really too sure what's going on. Up is down, left is right. And I think Get Out speaks to that, because you have people saying one thing and then doing something else, and everybody's got an agenda and nobody's being straight with you. And it's hard to find terra firma with that kind of thing. The ground keeps shifting, and it is disorienting, and it is terrifying.
Get out.
Sorry, man.
Get out! Yo!
Get Out is also different in that it shows that racism can be found in the most unexpected places. That's where its power lies, says Cara Buckley, culture reporter for the New York Times.
It poked fun and showed the hypocrisies of, white liberalism. I think that that's a good thing. I think it needed to happen. I mean, I think people were hungry for this without even knowing they were. And I certainly felt like that, when I saw it. I just thought, we'd never seen anything like it before, and there was something so satisfying about it.
But will that satisfaction lead to a Best Picture win for Get Out at the Oscars? A distinction no horror film has earned since 1991's Silence of the Lambs.
It bodes very well that the Screen Actors Guild named it one of the best performances of the year. So it's looking very, very good, certainly for screenplay, certainly for Best Picture, to be determined with director. It's a tight race for director this year.
Win or lose, actor Daniel Kaluuya, who played the lead role in Get Out, hopes the film will change the types of horror films that Hollywood makes.
Hopefully that there's more films that come like this that talk about real issues now, and people's real fears that are not just ghouls and monsters, but are actually social diseases that people navigate day in, day out.
Sink into the floor.
Wait.
Sink.
Meanwhile, a very timely film arrived at the New York Film Festival, profiling the Buddhist monk widely seen as stirring up hatred against them. It's an intimate portrait of a very influential and controversial figure, as Kizzy Cox reports.
With these searing images, director Barbet Schroeder shines a harsh light on what a top United Nations official calls a textbook example of ethnic cleansing in Myanmar. The target is the small Rohingya Muslim population in the majority Buddhist country. The instigator of this anti-Muslim violence is seen by many as the powerful Buddhist master Ashin Rawatu, who's been charged with using the specter of Muslims taking over Myanmar to strike fear in his audience. But why is Rawatu's speech so seductive in Buddhism, a religion based on love for all?
That's why I made the movie, because I wanted to understand how it was possible for Buddhism. I wanted to have to understand why this was possible coming from that religion.
The answer isn't clear, but the results are. Alleged Buddhist attacks on Muslim homes, rapes, and other atrocities have driven more than 500,000 Rohingyas out of Myanmar in the past 2 months. The majority have fled to Bangladesh, and thousands more are leaving by the day.
And so the innocent one, absorbing a drop at a time, can end up filled with evil.
While Schroeder claimed it was fairly easy to convince Rawatu to be interviewed, shooting the film at his monastery had its fair share of challenges. Schroeder claimed Rawatu even had his own film crew.
So, like we're talking, there is another crew there that are filming me especially. I'm filming him, and his crew is filming me and the interpreter and catching everything we say and all that. So it was a strange interview situation.
During the making of the documentary, Rawatu filmed Schroeder, while Schroeder filmed him. From Rawatu's perspective, this made sense since he's gotten his fair share of negative press. Back in 2013, Time magazine dubbed him the face of Buddhist terror. But with views that are in direct contradiction to Buddhist principles, why don't other Buddhist masters do more to push back against his hateful rhetoric and stand up for Rohingya Muslims?
Because it's not in the temperament of Buddhism to push hard or to talk hard. In the Buddhism, the real Buddhists, they have a soft way of doing things.
The film, which makes some political points, moves beyond Myanmar to show how Rawatu is thinking internationally. Barbet Schroeder believes his film is many things, but can also be seen as a warning.
The cautionary tale is beware of hate speech. That is definitely cautionary tale, because you can have speeches and speeches for years and years, and suddenly, overnight, it can become a disaster affecting millions of people.